All right, time for your unstoppable performances presented by Ram Trucks. ACC Prime for a week full of them that'll determine who gets into that ACC Championship in Charlotte, which team ultimately lands a great shot to be in the CFP. 6 teams still have a shot at it despite the madness that we've seen all season long. The tiebreaker scenarios, buddy,
good luck.
I don't want to do this.
Shout out to the graphics department for making this look as clean and simple as possible, because I can assure you it is not this easy.
That's
but
right.
This looks good.
Just screenshot it, digest it later. As you're watching the madness that occurs over the course of the weekend, just refer back to this, because I ain't got the time nor the breath to explain it. I'd much rather use my breath to welcome in one Mad Max Browne into the program to chat a little bit about all things going on across the college football space. But we'll begin in the ACC. Between SMU and Virginia. SMU's got Cal, Virginia's got the rivalry game against Virginia Tech. Which of those two teams do you feel better about making sure that they hold on to their grip that they have on their own destiny?
I feel better about Virginia because they get to play Virginia Tech. I would not want to play Cal this week. Cal absolutely laid an egg last week versus their rival. Their offense is still super productive, and for SMU to have to go to the West Coast in a night game versus Cal, I like Virginia standing a little bit better. That being said, I do think SMU hit a little bit of a stride these past few weeks, really ever since they lost to Wake. That offense has been playing at a really high level. Kevin Jennings got healthy a couple of weeks ago in their bye week, so SMU getting hot at the right time, but Cal, to me, is a much scarier team to face than Virginia Tech right now.
Yeah, Cal with their freshman quarterback and Jaren Kiave, Sangapolatele. Some funny.
Nailed it.
Some funny, I know, there you go. By the end of the season, thank goodness. Funny numbers for you. SMU's never lost to Cal. They're 2-0 all time.
Okay.
As for Virginia, they've lost 19 of the last 20 to Virginia Tech.
Oh, boy.
It hasn't been good, but maybe the tides turn this year. We'll see. Okay, moving on. Another game in the ACC. Miami is traveling to the Steel City with everything, absolutely everything on the line. Pitt, we watched last week, dominate Georgia Tech. Assuming that Pitt beats Miami, they could potentially be in the ACC Championship game. This is 12 o'clock Saturday on ABC. Who do you give the edge to, Max, in this one?
Yeah, I like the matchup for Miami on paper versus Pitt. I think Pitt, ever since Mason Heinschel took over, they've done a good job taking care of business of teams they have equal talent to or lesser talent than, unless it was Notre Dame, right? And Notre Dame was able to play man coverage, pack the box, and I think on paper, the Miami edge rushers versus this Pitt offensive line, the offensive line for Pitt is the weakness of this offense. And I think Miami, ever since the SMU loss, playing with a chip on their shoulder, knowing that they have to go into this game in style points are going to matter. Because if Miami's going to get into this, I think a big measuring stick is, hey, Pitt played Notre Dame not that long ago. Miami beat Notre Dame. All right, Miami, how do you look versus Pitt? And I'd expect Miami to come out with a chip on their shoulder, and I just don't like this matchup for Pitt on paper.
Hey, but it wasn't a must-win for Coach Deuce when they saw Notre Dame, baby. So who knows what happens with the
It wasn't that conference matchup.
See what I'm saying? So maybe the Panthers get up for this one.
Never know.
I just like stirring the drink. In any case, moving on to Miami and their shot at the ACC Championship. They finished 10-2, right? But they get left out of the ACC Championship game. Your thoughts on the odds of them being able to cross back into the college football playoff as an at-large?
They need some help. You look at the teams right around them. I mean, it's Vanderbilt and BYU, just one notch above them. Vandy's going on the road to Tennessee this week. If they take care of business, I don't see Vandy getting leapfrog in that situation. And then BYU's the interesting one because you would have a 11-1 BYU outside of the conference championship game. And to me, the argument is the vice versa of what it was last year for SMU. And here's what I mean about that. Last year, SMU was the one-loss ACC team that stumbled in the conference championship, and they were battling against a talented South Carolina or a talented Alabama. And the argument was, hey, ignore the brand, ignore the stars, ignore the recruits. Like, what is your resume? And that worked to SMU's advantage last year. This year, it'd be flip-flop, where you're saying, hey, Miami's got the talent, Miami's got the brand, they got the stars, and they'd be up against maybe a BYU in that situation. BYU doesn't have the flash, but they'd have a stronger resume, you could argue, with just that one loss. So to me, it's a total 180 shoe on the other foot for the ACC argument from last year to this year that right now I don't think works in the Canes' favor.
Yeah, you can bash the committee all you want, but God, this is going to be such a difficult decision here down the stretch. Art, we were just talking in the break when we were talking to you about, Cal firing Justin Wilcox a week after losing to Stanford and ahead of the final game of the regular season. The coaching carousel is going crazy right now. But at Florida State this week, they announced that head coach Mike Norvell will be back for the 2026 season despite the struggles they've had, especially over the last 2 years. What do you make of that statement that the school put out, and how does Florida State get back on track, Max?
Yeah, I put them in the same bucket as Wisconsin and Maryland recently. I think all three of those schools are looking out saying, do I want to be the 10th school in the coaching carousel market and have to fight for a limited coaching pool, or do we double down in resources and we'll see again next year? It's obviously a risky proposition, but I don't know if Florida State makes this move if the coaching carousel wasn't as crazy as it already is. Because if Florida State's job opens, it's the fourth most prestigious job, third most prestigious job, versus Mike Norvell. Next year will be make or break, and if it does open, then Florida State is surely going to be the premier job, or at least in that top two conversation. So I get it. I think Florida State was stuck between a rock and a hard place, but I'm interested to see what Norvell does with both those coordinators too. Do they come back? Does Gus Malzahn get a head coaching job? Because I think continuity for that staff, having been around it and called a couple games with them this year, a lot of new faces, new scheme and all that. Are they able to double down this offseason with a lot of young talent on that roster and get right in 2026? I understand why Florida State did it, even though I know the fan base is probably like, man, we're waiting for a fresh page.
No, it makes perfect sense, right? The idea of having to wait just one more year because of not knowing exactly what is going to be available to you should you try to move on and overhaul this thing, knowing that you might need to have a whole principle in change of how you recruit as opposed to just fixing one coach or one staffer.
Don't tell the people on Twitter that, though. Do not tell the people on Twitter that this was maybe a sound decision for Florida State.
They don't want to hear that. They ain't trying to hear that. Maxie, appreciate you, man. As always, have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat plenty of whatever you most enjoy, and safe travels to your next venture on the game side of things. All right, bro?
Thank you both. Happy Thanksgiving.